Hi, welcome to the Fight Editor Show, where we analyze and solve PR kerfuffles from MMA worlds and beyond. I feel like offering you a cough drop instead.
Oh, don't even start. I had a medical issue last night. Don't even start with
Oh,
it.
man. See, I have psychic foot in the mouth. I don't know if you know that. We'll talk about it at another date, but I totally have psychic foot in the mouth.
No, we're going to talk
Low
about today, but
level.
we'll talk about later.
Okay. I'm Alexi Old, and joining me, as always, is Kid Native Bloody Elbow and EUGENE'S Robinson from Aussie.com and author of Fight Everything You Ever Wondered About Ass Kicking, but were afraid you'd get your ass kicked for asking.
Nice.
Collective.
See, Nate, did you see what he just did? Did you see that? It's kind of funny, isn't it?
He gave like a low energy version of my
very low energy.
Just wait, I'm gonna push in.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it twice in one night too. So just watch, just wait for the stuttering and muttering. So collectively, the MMA Pancholes.
Yeah, there you go.
So Eugene,
sure,
you're the UFC.
No, wait. Is he UFC or WME-IMG?
UFC, because the next question is WME, and I wanted to switch that sheet up.
All right, I got it.
With the calamitous UFC 215 behind us, walk us through your PR lessons learned and plans for the future.
Oh, man, this is a travesty of a mockery of a sham, man. And then my hairpiece is going to start moving all around my head. It's a callback. JFK, Joe Pesci. I mean, I can't keep them straight without a scorecard. I don't know what is going on. I have no idea. But I guarantee you, when I look at my plate, it has no sausages on it. It will have fewer sausages tomorrow. You know, the Fertitas walk away. Did they walk away from a jalopy they sold to rebuy it later? Is it a classic Goodfellas scenario? The Baldwin is hanging in there. Is he being held hostage, or is it because he can't get away from the Klieg lights? You know, Sean Shelby, also known as Keith.
I love that line, by the way.
Is he coming into his own, or is he pursuing a regional strategy? And now that the B test has come back on Johnny Bonigioni, according to Brett Akamoto, are we now really in? I mean, doldrums was a mild term. Now we are in the misty climb of the Lost Battalion for the entire fucking promotion, all across the board, making me feel bad about the Scott Coker piece I wrote earlier in the week about how there's a resurgence. It's all dead. They're all dead. It's like a too long bridge in the apocalypse now. So if I'm the UFC, there are two plans. There is the UFC as the Uber manipulator plan, right? And this is where people like the Germans in the end of World War II maintained that there was some secret magical weapon that Hitler had that was going to save the Nazi Empire, right? And these people were sitting in rubble in Dresden thinking any day now they were going to be saved. So let's call them the UFC myopians, who believe that any day somebody's going to ride to their rescue. So if I'm a myopian and I work at the UFC, where I've said before there's a civil war going on, I believe that at some point the bigger brains of that company are going to figure shit out and pull our fat out of the fire. But I'm not really a myopian, you know. I'm going to have to say that I think that go down the conspiracy route, that they're playing this for some advantage long term. Oh, what happens next year? Well, the Fox deal concludes. Showtime has expressed interest. Showtime's got pretty big pockets. What would it take for them to swing things one way or another? I don't know. I'm just raising a point. Things that make you go, huh? So if I'm WME, if I'm UFC, I at this point am looking for my Lee Harvey Oswald, and his head rises above the crowd, and I say, "Hey, Keith, also known as Sean Shelby, you're doing a great job. Put together another killer card like you just did at UFC 215. Good on you, buddy." So at least I got that in my back pocket. I got a fall guy, and why that nervous looking, trembling, muttering, stuttering Sean Shelby is primed to be my fall guy if I'm UFC.
What about you, Nate?
It's the slough of despond is what it is. That's where we're at. The slough of despond. I mean, part of the, they've got cumulative problems. They've eroded their hardcore fan base. They've watered down their brand. They've overexpanded with too many divisions, and they've increased the difficulty of making the fights happen. In MMA, even when it was no holds barred, there's always been enormous changes at the last minute in this sport. You always, when you have individual sport, there's always shit that goes wrong with an individual, and you have to shuffle the cards at the last minute. I mean, all the way back, UFC 7, it was supposed to be Don Fry and Marco Huas, or not UFC 9. That was supposed to be that fight. And shit falls apart at the last minute. But now they've got less and less flexibility to adjust at the last minute. Like, once upon a time, if the challenger for the flyweight title dropped out, they would have had either Cejudo or the guy he punked, Wilson Hayes, step up and fight Mighty Mouse and kept the headliner. That's what they would have done. I mean, back in the day, remember when they had like who's the French-Canadian cat that stepped in for Guy Metzger against Tito Ortiz? He was fought from the UFC forever. Like, that kid got introduced to the UFC fans as a headliner. I can't remember the cat's name.
Not Patrick Cote.
Yeah, Patrick Cote.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He came in against Tito Ortiz, moved up 2 weight classes, and utterly last minute substitute for Guy Metzger. And they don't have the latitude to do that stuff anymore because of the contracts and the rules. And then you add on all this weight cutting. The new weight cutting rules seem to really fuck with guys, on top of the new drug testing rules. So they've just made it harder and harder for themselves. And I don't think the PR value of the USADA thing is worth what they're paying for.
But they get GSP back because he's coming back.
They would have got him back.
He's going to hurt people. He is going to hurt many people in the cage. I will hurt them. You will see.
His dark place. I remember back when GSP did hurt people, but that shows how old I am. I don't know what they can do, because they can't get rid of USADA right now, because that would be an enormous PR black eye if they were to do that. And so I don't know what I got no advice for him at this point, except realize you're in a rebuilding period. I think that's what they need to do. Unfortunately, they're in a rebuilding period when they need to make enormous amounts of cash quickly. So it's, they're in a predicament. This isn't a problem. You can solve a problem. A predicament, you're fucked.
Well, speaking about predicaments.
Hey, Mr. Nate, didn't the bald one work with Showtime on the Mayweather-McGregor fight? Ain't that something that happened?
They were like this. I mean,
that's funny.
Teamwork.
That's funny.
What teamwork.
That's strange. Anyway.
So I think this dovetails, Nate, into the next question, your WME-IMG. Is a red panty reschedule with a new RDA title reign best for your business? Or does McGregor, as the undisputed Moneyweight champion, need no fucking belt?
So now RDA won at welterweight, so he's not coming back to the lightweight division. Is that what are you trying to imply there? Huh?
He's gonna start tearing up his notes.
Sorry, I mean, it doesn't matter if McGregor has a belt or not. The next fight for McGregor is Nate Diaz. That's the only fight that anybody cares about. I mean, that's the big money fight. And the fight after that is Nick Diaz. Make those fights happen. Fuck the belt. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gave a shit about the Mayweather-McGregor fight not having any belts on the line. Book the big fights for McGregor and let the divisions fall where they may. It's Ferguson and Lee and Khabib that are.
You don't force RDA to go up against. Weren't they trying to get him to go up against Woodley?
Yeah, but I mean that's.
And then have McGregor.
So you're saying if you want to push McGregor to try to take the welterweight title?
I need to have some graphs. You have RDA go up against Woodley. If RDA beats Woodley, then you have McGregor.
RDA. I mean,
RDA
for a third title, sure, but that's after you get those Diaz fights done. Like, there's no need to go for a belt when you got name versus name. So.
And that was my question.
Okay, there you go.
I forgot what it was because I was thinking about dinner.
Do you know your look is like the guy from ABC? Do you remember the synth band ABC? I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, shoot that poison arrow.
Yeah.
You're looking like the not the main guy, but the sidekick.
Oh, I don't. How would you remember that?
Because I was a kid in the '80s and I saw those videos.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think there was another. I
Times.
think there was another reason.
What are you implying?
Hey, I'm not implying anything. I'm just
Man.
poking around in the dark. So what was it? What was the premise again?
The premise is,
Sorry.
if you're WME-IMG and you need to make some money, do you push that RDA Woodley title fight as soon as possible with the hope that if RDA wins, he can have the red panty, they can actually stage the red panty match with Conor McGregor? Or do you not need to start thinking about that kind of stuff?
You know,
Because
when you start talking, I start hearing sounds like this. And then I got kind of chilly, and then there was like mist coming out of the computer.
And your camera is shaking too.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and I could hear like the chop, chop, chop of the Weidman axe, and I realized that this was Lost Battalionized. I mean, come on, man. We're fucking desperate fucking individuals that's sitting around right now trying to do our fantasy MMA league and move the little pieces around on the deck of the Titanic thinking it's going to make a difference. I mean, we don't really care. Do we really care? Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care?
No time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the bald one. I mean, I feel like the guy in Gargantua and Pantagruel. If you've ever read that book by Rabelais, who's telling the other monks that the barbarians are going to tear down the vineyards and they won't have wine for 7 years. Oh, it's God's will, brother. We got to get down on our knees and pray. Forget that. We won't have wine for 7 years. Oh, it's good. And he breaks off the cross and kills 7,000 barbarians, saves the vineyards. I mean, there's not. What is that Bismarcky line? Nothing will save you. Nothing will save you.
Oh, the vapors.
The vapors. Nothing's gonna save
Can you feel it?
because this is a season of getting the vapors.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. So RDA. I mean, yeah, he did great against Heiss, and I'm quoting Vinny Stigma there, and you know, and so Woodley and. Come on, like Nate said, we got McGee, we got the Diaz's, we got maybe somewhere in the Lesnar got much less interesting if we're gonna look at a 4-year for Johnny Boney Joni out. So I don't know, man. I hate to be a Jeremiah, nattering nabob of negativity, but what kind of fucking moves can you make? Why don't you go? You know how in the old days,
promotion with WME,
wrestling
versus MMA.
You know how in the old days they would have on the movie poster they would have a couple, right? And then they would have a couple and a gun, and then they would have in a movie poster for a random movie they would have now a guy and a gun. So they've cut the couple in half. So it's a guy and a gun. And I was laughing going, at some point, they're just going to have a movie poster with a gun. And sure enough, there was a movie poster with just a gun. We're at that point now with MMA. Conor McGregor is that gun. They were advertising at 215 some Conor McGregor fucking sweepstakes shit not attached to any fight at all. Like win some fucking date with Conor McGregor or some bullshit thing that they're advertising, they're pushing, and you don't know, and it builds up sense of mystery. That's fine. You know how much money they spent to make that video package? You know what kind of production teams provided the underlayment for whatever that bullshit ridiculous contest is? They've got their it guy. They're gonna squeeze him till he can't be squeezed anymore because they got nothing else. So any moving around the chairs is fun for us. It has no corollary in the real world at this point.
Well, something that does have corollary in the real world and is alive. Squeezing the juice. Kid Nate's heel turn.
Lorenzo and Frank Jr., the Fertittas, selling their last shares to the UFC for an increased valuation from what they jacked people with last year. Like, whose money are they taking here? Last year they sell the thing for $4.3 billion, right? And has anything changed for the better in the next year to make you think the value of the UFC is $5.8 billion? No. Last year they had, what, 4 pay-per-views over 1 million buys? This year they have had none? None? Like that one that came close, that does not justify a 20% increase in valuation. Whose money are they taking here? I mean, how do you get in the billionaire suite to the point where even dumber billionaires are saying, take my money, take it. Like,
well, you remember that old knuckle up I did about meeting the stupid VC guy? He just happened to be there and said, okay. And then, actually, he's got Apple, Google, Facebook under his belt. Everybody thinks he's a genius. Okay.
Man.
Yep.
That is a bummer. Speaking of bummers, Eugene, who's in your Lost Battalion?
Man, I mean, I hate to go Diana Ross this early on, but, I mean, once you put the entire promotion in the Lost Battalion, is there anything? I mean, it's once a black hole consumes itself, what's left to put in the Lost Battalion? I mean, I guess they're noteworthy. They're noteworthy attempts, right? Like, I mean, Chris Weidman is still probably one of the most active Lost Battalion members ever. He's just, he wants to guarantee that he keeps that lead position. There's some people outside of MMA who are all, striving, Hillary and so on, striving to get into the Lost Battalion. Junior Dos Santos is out. Somebody just tweeted here that Tyrone Woodley's got a torn shoulder and is out till July of next year. So that little RDA Woodley scenario is for shit anyway. So, I mean, I'm going to have to say that, how about this? In the Lost Battalion is structural solutions for the rescue and salvation of MMA. That's in the Lost Battalion, because nobody's thinking about, well, what do I do? If it was a high-tech corporation, they'd say, like, our product, every time we're about to bring it to market, craps out. How do we keep that from happening? How do you can't, fucking Ray Borg was a gimme anyway, and then how do we keep this? If I'm in Hamilton and I'm getting $1,000 of tickets for a show on Broadway, and people are showing up for Lynn Miranda, whatever dude's name is, and he's sick, am I going to give that money back? Fuck no. Got to understudy. Maybe you're not happy, but you're happy enough. So in the Lost Battalion is really kind of hardcore procedural strategic thinking about trying to rescue their promotion. And that makes me really fucking suspicious. If people are that casual with $4.2 billion, I got a plate with no sausages on it. It's a pretty nice plate too. It's got all kinds of ideas on the filigree and the decoration about things books and movies that could be made. Put some sausages on the plate. You'll see magic happen. But right now, I'm not seeing any magic happen. So,
man,
Lost Battalion. The Lost Battalion is in the Lost Battalion. How's that for meta?
Damn. Well, thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter, EUGENE'S Robinson, Alexio at Kid Nate, at Facebook, MMA Pancholes. Please give us a thumbs up, Eugene.
I'm like, why is this man smiling? In the fullness of time, you'll figure this out, my friends.
You're the understudy in Hamilton.
Well, maybe a little bit.
The understudy.
I'm well respected in musical theater, as you well know.
Theater.
I mean, I know that they're calling when they're looking to replace the lead in Hamilton. I know your agent's getting calls.
Who's the swiniest swine in the world? Captain Hook. Sorry. You asked for that. Musical theater.
Leave comments, YouTube. Sorry, I mean, MMA Nation on YouTube, MMA Nation on iTunes. Visit Play Elbow by Oxbow's Thin Black Duke, where fine music is sold. And immediately follow this show. Be sure to check out our new non-MMA show, If the Shoes Fit, on YouTube at If the Shoes Fit.
And the link's in the description to this show. So just click that link and you'll be on the new show.
There we go.
Ba-bing.
Ba-bing.
We'll be back next week with another song, If I Did It. And we don't know what we're going to be talking about yet because of PR mistakes have yet to be made.